Here.
Alderman Tindem. Here. Alderman Glover. Alderman Rainey. Here. Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson. Here. Y'all didn't answer, but I know you're here. Okay.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, January 12th, 2015 meeting of the Evanston City Council. First item on the agenda is Mayor's public announcements, and I have one thing to say. As we begin 2015, I want to take an opportunity to reflect on an important issue that has received much attention at the end of 2014. The role of law enforcement in communities around the country has been discussed and debated for years. The issues of fairness, transparency, and effectiveness of the actions of a city's police department are serious points of community dialogue. In Evanston, we've had these discussions over the years. Today's Evanston Police Department is one that is in touch with our community. First, the makeup of the department reflects the diversity of our community. This is an accomplishment that few area police departments can match. Our residents see people like themselves protecting our community. Second, the department is sensitive to all aspects of our community. The Evanston Police Department's problem-solving team works in our neighborhoods with residents to solve community problems where law enforcement is only one part of the solution. EPD goes to ward meetings, works with outreach workers, has officers at Evanston Township High School. EPD works with the City of Evanston departments and community partners to address community problems together. This approach to policing not only makes Evanston a safer community, but maintains trust and confidence in our police department. The successes we have in connecting the community and our police department comes from the hard work of the men and women of the Evanston Police Department. Under the direction of Chief Eddington, our police officers understand our community. Chief Eddington and his staff are committed to continually evaluating this relationship and making needed adjustments to ensure this understanding and connection to the community continues. All of us owe a debt of gratitude to the officers of the Evanston Police Department for their fine and incredibly difficult work. Evanston will continue to face challenges in 2015 on many fronts. I am confident that all of us working together will keep Evanston a special place. So thank you, EPD, not only those who we are going to honor tonight, but every single member of the police department. That's all I have, City Manager.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I'd like to have Police Chief Richard Eddington step forward. We have a number of promotions.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Alderman, Clerk Green. Madam Mayor, thank you for your kind comments this evening, and I also wanted to mention that Her Honor stopped by the roll calls on January 9th to deliver the same messages directly to the men and women of the police department so that they would hear her thoughts prior to this evening, which meant a great deal to the officers. So, again, thank you, Your Honor, for your kind remarks on both occasions. As I call forward the officers to be promoted tonight and ask the city clerk to step down and administer the oath of office, I want to enforce the rate of change that occurs in the city's police department. Tonight, as I speak, there are 8 officers in the field training program and 1 more in the basic training academy. And so that rate of change continues, and it is a testament to the veteran officers at the department who have trained and mentored that new generation of officers coming up. And so we do not lose that level of service, that continuity of service, and the connection with the community. And so that is the result of the very hard work by a number of men and women in the department. With that, I'd like to call Jody Hart forward to become sworn in as a sergeant. Mr. City Clerk.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Detective Jody Hart,
I, Detective Jody Hart,
having been promoted to the office of sergeant
having been promoted to the office of sergeant
in the city of Evanston,
in the city of Evanston,
in the town of Cook aforesaid,
in the town of Cook aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
and support the Constitution of the United
to
States
support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duty and office of sergeant
the duty of officer of sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good badge, huh? Video the whole. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Sergeant Angela Williams,
I, Sergeant Angela Williams,
having been promoted to the office of commander
have been promoted to the office of commander
in the city of Evanston,
in the city of Evanston,
in the town of Cook aforesaid,
in the town of Cook aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
to uphold the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois.
and that I will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully discharge
the office of commander
the office of commander
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Commander Jason Parrott,
I, Commander Jason Parrott,
having been promoted to the office of Deputy Chief
having been promoted to the office of Deputy Chief
in the city of Evanston,
in the city of Evanston,
in the county of Cook aforesaid,
in the county of Cook aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
and affirm that I will uphold the Constitution
and affirm that I will uphold the Constitution
of the Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Deputy Chief
the duties of Deputy Chief
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Next, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Sergeant Tracy Williams from the police department is here. Sergeant Williams had an opportunity to be in New York City a couple of weekends ago and wanted to share his experiences there. Sergeant, good evening.
Thank you. Evening, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, Clerk Green, City Manager Bobkowitz. 2 weeks ago, Officer Nathan Basner and I had the opportunity to travel from Chicago to New York to attend a funeral and the wake services for the New York City police officer that was brutally killed while sitting in a squad car. We flew out of O'Hare, courtesy of JetBlue Airlines. It was gracious enough to fly us free of charge, along with 1,100 other police officers from around the country. Once we arrived into New York, we made our way to our hotel, which was in downtown Manhattan. This was on a Saturday, and we were quickly able to learn that we needed to take the subway in New York everywhere you go. So we got to our hotel, we changed into our uniforms, and took the subway from downtown Manhattan into Brooklyn. We got off the subway, had to walk about 4 or 5 blocks in the rain. Once we arrived at the funeral home, of course, there was a long line for the wake. We stood out there for about a half an hour in the rain to get inside to pay our respects. Once we got inside, of course, it was very crowded, and the family of Officer Liu was sitting right in front of the casket where families normally would sit. And there were 4 Chinese, New York City police officers that appeared to be Chinese descent. They were standing right next to the family. So I grabbed the attention of one of them, explained to them that we were from the city of Evanston, city just north of Chicago, and that we had a card that contained a small collection that members of the Evanston Police Department had put together, and we wrote a little something inside the card, and we put an Evanston police patch inside the card. So they quickly walked myself and Officer Basner over to the family, and he translated what I had told him, I hope, because he's speaking Chinese. The mother stood up and took the card from me. She reached over, gave me a hug, kissed me on my cheek, and the rest of the family stood up and shook our hands, really expressing the gratitude that we were there. It was just a fantastic acknowledgement, for what we had to go through, getting up early, the traveling, getting on the subway. I mean, just that whole travel was well worth just the hug and the kiss from the mother of an officer that was just sitting in his car trying to do his job and was brutally shot and killed. So once we left the wake, the following day we got up to attend the funeral services, which was on Sunday. And through our travels, we encountered many police officers. There were police officers from, like I said, all across the world, Los Angeles, San Antonio, Florida. At the funeral, there were over 20,000 police officers there. There's a couple slides here. If you can go to the next one. This was at the funeral itself. This is prior to the procession coming by. If you go to the next one, please. This is the photo of us on the subway, which is all underground, which is very strange. You're used to, seeing a few lights, but everything is completely underground. They have trains on top of trains. The photo on the right is just, if you can just see how many police officers are in attendance there, just incredible. Go to the next one. And they were all around, not just on one street, but just for blocks and blocks of a sea of blue. Go to the next one. It's one of the aerial shots. There are police officers up on the roofs, and I think this might have been taken from the helicopters. They had the helicopters flying up above. So it was. It's an incredible journey. A couple of things memories that really stuck out to me was just the show of support. There were officers that drove far to get to the airport and then traveled, and then the contact that we had with the family. I'll never forget that. And there was one New York City police officer that gave a speech, and he talked about that we will never know how much this really means to them. He said it really helps their healing process, because right now the New York City police officers, he said, they're viewed in a lot of people's eyes as the enemy. and he says just the show of support is just incredible. So again, it's just it's hard to really put in words all the feelings and the emotions were there. Just walking down the New York City streets, you could tell that there were some people that did appreciate the reason we were there, and a couple of people asked, "Why are you here? Are you from Evanston?" I said, "We're here for show support." But there was also just a strange feeling when you're in uniform that not everyone out there in New York was appreciative. So. Again, I appreciate Chief Eddington giving me the opportunity to go out and represent the city of Evanston and the police department. It was a great experience that I'll never forget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shifting gears a little bit, we have two new employees we'd like to introduce. First, Marty Lyons, our Assistant City Manager, I think is nearby. If not, I'll just introduce Jennifer myself. Jen Lynn. Jennifer is our new Human Resources Manager. Jennifer comes to us, was at the Forest Preserve District for some time doing administrative work there, but perhaps most important was an early job that she had where she and Grant Farrar. Now imagine this: she and Grant Farrar as junior attorneys in the Illinois State's Attorney's Office. So good pedigree there, working with Mr. Farrar. Mr. Lyons, you want to say a few words?
Madam Mayor, members of council, Manager Bobkowitz, and Clerk Green, we are very excited to have Jennifer Lynn with us. We went through an extensive search. We had a great interview panel of Chief Eddington and members of the Human Resource Department. So by having that panel, we had an opportunity for departments to have an idea of the best candidates to take a look at. And from that research, we selected Ms. Lynn, and we're very excited to have her. She has hit the ground running. She had to spend her first week without me here since I wasn't available for the first few days, and has been very busy. So welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you.
Great. And next, I'll ask Mark Munzer, our Director of Community Development, who I trust is. Come on up, Gary. I'd like to introduce Gary Gertis, who is our new Building and Inspection Services Division Manager with our Community Development Department. Gary has worked in a number of different communities around Illinois in a similar capacity, also had his own construction company earlier on than that, as a welcome addition to our Community Development Department and responsible for our building services. Gary, do you want to say a quick word?
Just that I appreciate the opportunity that Manager Bobkowitz and the Director Munzer have provided me. I look forward to working with City Council, the Mayor, and I look forward to serving the residents of Evanston. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Welcome. Next, Tim Rose, who is the director of the Fleetwood Jourdain Theater, is here with us this evening as he makes his way through the crowds. Tim is here to talk a little bit about some activities coming up over the next several days, most importantly on Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager Bobkowitz, Clerk Green, good evening and Happy New Year to you. How are you? Good. Saturday, I'm so happy to say that the continuation of the annual celebration of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King will continue at noon at the Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. For that celebration, we have the Honorable Mayor who will be speaking with us. Former Mayor Lorraine Morton will be there. Our keynote speaker will be Reverend Mark Dennis, who is now the president and CEO of the McGaw YMCA. So we're actually thrilled about that. That's historic. We have several people who will be sharing their musical talents with us. We have the Evanston Children's Choir that will be attending. We have David Chainsaw DuPont, the blues man, who will be there. We have a young man named Jaden Francis, 10 years old, who will be doing an excerpt from the I Have a Dream speech. And Chloe Smith will be singing, starting off our event with singing the Lift Every Voice and Sing. So I encourage you to continue to spread the word about that. a wonderful event. And we're going to close it out with Reverend Kenneth Cherry, who always raises the roof a little bit, takes it to another level. So we're really happy about that. We're also doing on Monday, January 19th, a collaboration with Northwestern University's Theater Department. The reading of the play The Gift Horse by renowned playwright Lydia Diamond, whose play Stickfly was just on Broadway a couple of seasons ago, who also wrote The Bluest Eye. We'll be doing that collaboration with the Theater Department, and I have the honor of reading one of the parts in that play. So that will be Monday evening. And the mutual goal of Fleetwood Jourdain Theater and Northwestern University is to continue to collaborate to share our resources. So during the course of the year, a number of their students will be working with us in our professional theater capacity. They will also be working to learn about community service. And so this will give them an introduction to what we are about here at the Fleetwood Jourdain Theater. Some up-and-coming events. I have a little bit of time, if you don't mind, City Manager. I just want to let you know that we got some wonderful things that are coming up down the line. African American History Month, we're doing some pop-up theater. So we won't know where it is. You have to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. But there'll be a couple of events that will happen during the course of February to celebrate African American History Month. The Evanston Children's Theater will be producing Annie. So we're having auditions for that this week, and rehearsals going into next week. We have a brand new theater company in this city. I don't know if you know about it. It's called the Tater Tot Theater Company, and we are servicing kids 5, 6, and 7 years old. We had auditions today, and we're also going to have them on Wednesday. And we had a nice little turnout. So they're going to be doing a rendition of The Little Red Hen, for all those of you who remember that wonderful story. Women's History Month celebration is coming up once again, and we also have our 3rd annual Senior Citizen Party at the Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. Last year we did Mardi Gras was our theme. This year is the Bahama Mama Retreat. So if you come there, you're going to hear some steel drums and some Jamaican food. It's going to be quite wonderful. It's always very well attended. Our summertime season 2015 will kick off where we left off last season with the Why Not Me, a Sammy Davis Jr. story. It was so popular that we're going to bring it back again, and we're going to close out our season with a brand new play that I have written. It's called Maya's Last Poem. Maya Angelou is seeking to finish this poem that she was writing at the time that she passed away. We have 3 concerts. Old School Rhythm and Blues concert. We have the Jazz Meets Blues concert once more. But we're also going to end with a gala, a black tie event of the Black Voices of Opera. Will be at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center. And so with that, I want to say thank you once again for your continued support of the Fleetwood Jourdain Theater, and we will continue to do our very best to make you very proud of us.
Now, don't go away, Tim. Don't go away, Tim, because now you would think that that's a lot on someone's plate, wouldn't you, for the average human being? But no, not for Tim Rose. Tim is starring in a production at the Steppenwolf Theater called Airline Highway, which is on until February 8th, 2015. Tickets are available. And I even hear there's whispers of Broadway. So if you've not seen, Tim's gotten great reviews in this production. It's out at the Steppenwolf for another few weeks. So if
You've been extended. So if
you have been extended, okay.
Extended, so the crowds are great, but thank you for that.
Well, we're very proud of you, and thank you for everything that you do here, and best wishes in this production at Steppenwolf.
Thank you very much.
Before you go, Alderman Grover.
Mr. Rose, my question is, who do we follow on Twitter and Facebook to follow this?
Fleetwood Jourdain Theater, at Fleetwood Jourdain Theater.
At Fleetwood Jourdain Theater?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And our Facebook account is Fleetwood Jourdain.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be your artistic director, by the way. Just so you know that, okay? Take care. Have a good night.
You know, we don't mean to put this last, but lastly is our holiday trash pickup schedule. Director of Public Works, Suzette Robinson, is here. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about snow, too, so we could mix it up a little bit.
No snow.
No snow, okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council Clerk Green, and City Manager Bobkowitz. Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works. First, I'll get the holiday trash announcement out of the way. January 19th is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and as a result of that, all trash collection will be moved back a day. Trash and recycling collections will be moved back a day. Well, with regards to snow, we have had much less than previously, especially given last winter. We actually got a little comfortable because December we had virtually no accumulating events. January, however, we had our first accumulating storm, and as expected, drivers acted like they had never seen snow before. We did a unique thing, given that we knew the temperatures were going to fall. So we asked people to do a courtesy posting to move halfway from one side to the other halfway through the day, and we got 60% compliance, which was really good. And we didn't expect a tremendous amount of people, but those people that were at home, and that's a credit to our citizen engagement component. There are so many people that are dialed in and connected to Evanston in ways that didn't exist before, that we were able to get so many people to participate, given that we were expecting sub-zero temperatures, and that type of wet snow would turn into concrete and we wouldn't be able to move it. So thank you, Evanston residents, for helping out with that. So we got a little bit of snow out here now, less than half an inch is expected tonight. So, and we have crews here handling it as well. So thank you very much.
And Suzette, before you go, I know the council is aware of this, but the American Public Works Association Suburban Chicago chapter is announcing their awards, and there's 4 with the City of Evanston's name on that. So I guess there's an opportunity for some of those also to go to the Chicago area branch of APWA. So I think we will bring Suzette and her staff back after we hear what happens at the Chicago, but clearly good news for our Public Works Department.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, that concludes my announcements.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications for us?
No communications this evening, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments. I'm going to call the first 4 names. You each have 3 minutes. Gary Schumacher, Diane Williams, Carl Bova, and Diane Corling. There you are, Gary. I didn't see.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. I just wanted to come by. As part of the Preservation Commission, we stopped by for the Human Services meeting last week and wanted to reiterate with regard to the issue H4 on the consent agenda this evening that we are willing and eager to participate in some kind of development project relative to the Harley Clark project and its future. In the time that's passed in the last week, we have communicated with the rest of our commission and have put together a subcommittee of the Preservation Commission to begin considering and making recommendations that might be considered later by this body. So we wanted to urge you to consider our recommendation of creating a task force and placing some of the more relevant members of the city staff and the community on that task force in order to pursue some alternate solutions for that property. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diane Williams, and I'm also on the Preservation Commission with Gary. And I want to thank you for hearing us again. And basically, I want to just echo Gary's sentiments, and that we hope that you'll accept our suggestion for a working group to address the issues associated with the Harley Clark Bench, and really take this opportunity to examine a wide range of uses for the property, as well as tap into some of the city and community expertise that's out here around this issue. Thanks.
Thank you.
Carl Bova, 1322 Rosalie Street. As you may recollect, when the city was pushing to demolish this Civic Center building under the previous city manager, a huge estimate to rehab the existing building was made public. When the public's overwhelming opposition to the demo became reality, the choice to rehab this building was made. On Wally's watch, steady and what I'd call pay-as-you-go improvements have been made once the $1 million roof was replaced. These improvements, steady as they go, continue today. We can afford the Civic Center. Somehow, we can't spend a small fraction on the mansion. I don't buy it. Start with a roof repair and upgrade the heating and AC, a ramp to the rear for accessibility, minor first floor renovations, attack the mold issue, and hit the most critical windows. Cosmetic fixes to the first floor to make it usable in the next few years. Add the elevator, tuck point the stonework, continue with the windows, and start attacking the kitchen, and so on. Let as much of the work as practicable be job training. How one pays for this is via sponsorships and donations, ordinary taxes, and savings and efficiency when we consolidate the two park districts into one, jettison the Parks and Recreation Department into the consolidated park district, and headquarter it in the mansion. We all know that the city can't or won't maintain some of its city assets for whatever reason. Can't build a replacement for Robert Crown, even with known structural problems. Can't maintain the mansion, but can give $3 million to a developer at Main and Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Corling, 1914 Orrington. A user of the beach, a visitor to the beach next to this mansion. Attendee at a number of previously held here in Evanston conferences raising citizen consciousness about water-related and lake-related issues. Going so far back, I don't know if anybody else even remembers some of these. It's an ideal meeting location, like Dumbarton Oaks and other historic properties elsewhere, being used for discussion of important ideas. A meeting center, but certainly a presence of this community on the overlooking the water, worth saving for the symbolism of a place on the water, for everybody to use, but certainly for educational purposes, for the establishment of an administrative body, whatever it is. I concur with the remarks of the two previous commentators, and those are terrific sets of comments, including the proposal for an ongoing, for a broader discussion group before we simply decide that it has to be demolished, for goodness sake. I'd certainly be willing to serve and try to restrict myself to the areas of my expertise, but it's very, very helpful to have had an engineer speak on it and the other citizens concur with the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Barbara Janes, Linda Damashek, Mary Rosinski, and Betty Esther.
Good evening, members of the City Council, Mayor Tisdall, City Manager Bobkowitz. My name is Barbara Janes, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Evanston Parks and Lakefront Alliance. EFPLA is a group of citizens from all wards in Evanston committed to protecting and maintaining open spaces throughout Evanston. Tonight, I would like to make a few comments about the status of the future of Harley Clark Mansion and negotiations with the Department of Natural Resources to bring the coastal management program to Evanston, located at Lighthouse Landing Park. We believe, and I believe that most of you believe, that there is a great value in having these programs offered close to home and the many residents of the North Shore and wider Chicago area. The presence of these programs in Evanston will benefit the city of Evanston and its residents through its courses on the Great Lakes, lake ecology, and the potential to partner with Evanston's Ecology Center to expand its programming. Having the coastal management program housed at Lighthouse Landing Park will also ensure that it will remain under public ownership. Ever since IDNR came forward with a proposal to locate the coastal management program at Harley Clark, EFPLA has clearly and positively stated support for this program. At past meetings of the Human Services Committee and the whole City Council, we have spoken in favor of negotiating with IDNR and thank the Council for its support. We understand that due to the new administration, there may not be continued interest at IDNR to allocate the necessary funds. However, this is neither a certainty nor reasons not to meet with the new IDNR leadership staff to explore the possibility of resuming negotiations to bring the program to Evanston. Their priorities are not currently known and cannot be known until the city staff meets with the new IDNR staff. Rather than asking whether this program can be made to work, ask how can we make this program a reality in Evanston. We have repeatedly stated if, in order to finalize agreement, that a mechanism regarding the ownership of the land under and around the building can be worked out. We believe that the latter approach can be much more productive in making the coastal management program a reality. We encourage you to renew your directives to the city manager to negotiate for an agreement to bring the coastal management program here. We also recognize that
Barbara,
it is,
I do need you to wrap up, please.
and to have plans B, C, and maybe even D, which would be explore deconstruction, and to even consider selling the building for $1 and letting somebody buy it and move it to their own property. There are lots of options, but the number one option is to resume those negotiations and find out how we can make the coastal management program a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Yes, Linda Damashek. Members of the Evanston Parks and Lakefront Alliance have been consistently proactive in working to keep the Harley Clark Mansion in public ownership. As far back as the summer of 2013, we investigated alternative potential uses of the Harley Clark Mansion. That was before we knew anything about the state being interested. And so we visited 4 former private mansions that had been repurposed to perform different functions and were operated by most were operated by local park districts. We visited the Berker Mansion in Chicago, the Cheney Mansion in Oak Park. We spent a lot of time doing this. We went to the Dole Mansion in Crystal Lake. And then we went to the Grove in Glenview. During each visit, we met with the operators of the building, and we gathered program information, we gathered financial information. They were all break-even undertakings. And then September 18th, 2013, we had a public meeting where we brought this information to the public. We had a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, and the main thing is, for your information, is we compared all the mansions with what their primary purpose was, the ownership structure, did they have a separate foundation, programming, what was the primary income, what was the additional income. We shared all that information with over 100 people who came to our meeting. The featured speaker was Rula Alakutu, an architect who led the Rogers Park Edgewater citizens who saved the Berger Mansion from demolition. And ideas were gathered and collated. In November, that's when the IDNR expressed interest in the building, and we thought that it was a very appropriate use of Harley Clark Mansion. Winter, spring, and summer went by to 2014, and that's when we learned that the IDNR, in September of 2014, it was announced that IDNR needed to own the building and the land in order to get the funds to rehab the building. And we understood that. We knew that it was important for the state to be able to get the funds to bring the project, to be able to complete the project. And we understood the very important point of keeping Evanston keeping control of the land. So we spoke at all Human Services Committee meetings and City Council meetings where Harley Clark was on the agenda to say that there were legal mechanisms that we encouraged you to consider. There were many of them. We said, choose which one makes the most sense for you. So that the property, there was a right of reversion, there was conservation easements, there were a
Linda,
number.
I do need you to wrap up.
Okay. The major point is just that we have been proactive throughout this process, and we encourage you to pursue with the state. But if not, we have a wealth of information to share on alternative uses. And so we would welcome being a part of the discussion, whichever way it goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Rosinski, and I'm also with EFLA. One of the things I think I just really want to reiterate was that our whole intent was to be collaborative, to invite everybody who wanted to come to any of the public meetings. We had 2 of them here at the city, to reach out to other neighborhood organizations and try to build an alliance along that line. That being said, I think you've already heard from those guys. I was given the task to explore moving the mansion, as my brother's moved 3 houses, so I talked with him. One thing I found was that the house itself is probably about 77 by 95. You would have to take away the conservatory and probably reconstruct it. So you would need a property that is close by that be able to move it. And I found that the city owns a lot just about a block and a half away that's 95 by 176 that theoretically, if it could move down Sheridan Road without having to take out all the trees, the city could sell that lot, which no one's been doing anything for years, put it back on the tax records, sell it for $1, because usually in these situations, you only sell the property for $1, because the new owner has to buy the property.
Are you talking about the water reservoir?
95, is that 2501 Sheridan Road?
So there's a
Is there a water reservoir under there?
Holland Reservoir on that site, so it'd be difficult to put a building on top of it.
Oh, there is a water, okay, I did not know.
We'll confirm that, but
Okay.
I believe that's the water reservoir.
But that's the size lot that we need probably a minimum of in order to be doing it. The other option is, like my brother did, was to buy a lot where someone has an extra big lot. There could be an owner that's sitting on a wide lot that would like the house and will tear down their house because it doesn't have much architectural. But my point of all this, I don't have an answer. That was just a relatively quick thing in the last week that I was sent to do. We have the thing about moving it is, if we were lucky enough and the stars aligned and that could happen, we could join with preservation. They could help do that. the land itself, you could keep the coach house, use that as a public building, maybe run ecology programs out of there. You have the Jens Jensen, so you could bring together the garden and the ecology center. So it could be just a really wonderful area of bringing different community groups together. And I just would really like you to consider something along that line and put it out there. Maybe there's someone with a lot that wants this house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Earlier this year, last year, there was a group of citizens that put together a plan, came to the city and asked for your support. It was the Cradle to Career Pathway Program. That concept is a great idea. When I heard that the DNR was coming, and I said, that'll be great. The kids that go through this program will have a chance to actually see something, talk to people, have a hands-on thing in going through this career pathway part and not do it virtual. The high school had a career pathway program, and that was where the kids go, sit in front of a computer and run a program and see what was supposed to happen, what courses and things you had. There was no interaction with the person. Having this facility here give our children the opportunity and the chance to learn from people. And I think we should try to get this here because this is something that we need. If we're talking about careers for children, we want them to go into things and be more explore. We want to get them away from the computers, which is good, but this would be actual people, a chance to learn much, much more than they can from a virtual program. So I hope we can get the program here from the DNR people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Junaid Rizki. Next and last.
As a longtime watcher of the budget, unfortunately, council members and the mayor have spread a rumor we don't have enough money to fix Harley Clark. This is really more political than anything else. If said enough, everyone believes it, but it's not reality. The pattern here of continued budget mischief, that is at every meeting, when you look at line items and things that have to be done, they're not justified half the time and the money's been moving around. Unfortunately, both the 6th and 7th Ward aldermen have shown little leadership on Harley Clark, since many of the people do support it from that end of town. And basically, one of them said at the last meeting they didn't have the time to deal with it. Frankly, those two aldermen also voted recently to move a police outpost on Howard Street at $320,000. And someone suggested that's $10,000 on the tax rolls. Well, that amounts to $2,000 a year for 150 years to recoup it. So, frankly, there's so many things here that are so ridiculous. The council a few years back basically approved a yard wage sticker budget increase that would have that failed, and basically that you couldn't collect the money. So we ended up paying for it. That would have covered twice the cost of the Harley Clark renovation per year. So, there's so many things here. What we see here is a lot of things that are so-called deals and business and all this, and none of this is business. And as I've been talking about the water fund, of course, my feeling of its condition and the 44% increases are quite troubling. Beyond what I would call poor financial stewardship here, there's another issue, and that's really the poor stewardship of our valuable public assets, such as libraries, such as Harley Clark, the golf course, and many other things here have been put up in sort of a game of let them develop or whatever. Now, we have a proposal that's a couple weeks away that someone here said we didn't need to talk about. That's Leahy Park. We have a 1.25 acre above ground water tank is proposed to sit in the middle of a park. Brilliant. It cost us $15,000 as a study item. So we're going to build a water tank in the middle of a park. I think it's very interesting. That's the kind of regard we have for our assets here. And frankly, this is very troubling. It should be troubling to everyone in this community. We don't seem to have a real direction here or leadership as to how we view our assets. And this is probably worse than the money, because the money can be fixed, although the money is being, I believe, highly misused for certain people's pet projects and things here. I think Harley Clark did open a lot of people's eyes to what I feel is a growing distrust of the citizens and your management and stewardship of our assets. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Consent agenda. First item, approval of minutes of the regular council meetings of November 24, December 1, and December 8. The Administration Public Works Committee met this evening
Excuse
and
me.
asked...
Alderman Rainey, I have a correction to be made in the December 8th minutes.
I'll remove those from
Has it
the
been-
agenda.
I'm sorry.
I mean, from the consent agenda.
Clerk Green, has it been done? All right, thank you.
Never mind.
Never mind.
Administration Public Works Committee met this evening, and we ask your approval for the payroll of November 30th, 2014, the amount of $2,615,630.57. December 14, 2014, $2,637,436.82, and then the payroll through December 28, 2014, in the amount of $2,591,719.85. We ask your approval for 2014 bills through January 13, 2015, in the amount of $4,932,715.24. And from 2015, this year, through January 2015, in the amount of $2,503,241.52. Credit card activity ending November 30th, $124,226.06. We ask your approval for the agreement with Rose Pest Solutions for citywide rodent control services for the city of Evanston and residential areas. This is for a full year in the amount of $22,880, February 1 through February 1, 2016. The next item is off the consent agenda and is being held in committee, will be addressed by the committee chair. The next item is off the consent agenda due to an abstention in the consent agenda. Item 3.4, we ask your approval for a contract with Hipscon Technology Solutions Group for City of Evanston Computer Data Storage Area Network Project in the amount of $250,396.16. Your approval is requested to authorize the manager to execute a change order number 1, 2014 Cured Place Sewer Rehab Contract B with In Situ Form Technologies. This will increase the contract amount by $28,474 and will extend the contract duration by 61 days from November 30 to January 30. Ordinance 109-014 is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Ordinance 124-014, the Parking and Transportation Committee recommend the City Council adopt 124-014 to allow towing of vehicles physically obstructing a fire hydrant and adding Section 2B, providing 48-hour notice when temporary tow signs are posted for introduction. The Transportation Parking Committee also recommend that the City Council adopt Ordinance 7015, amending City Code by creating a subsection 101110M, Schedule X, to include 2-hour parking limits between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Church Street and Hinman Avenue. The next item is for introduction, and I will move to suspend the rules so that the committee chair can call for approval. Ordinance 143-014, decreasing the number of Class D liquor licenses for Carmen's of Evanston, 1241 Chicago Avenue, Carmen's is now closed. Next item is suspension of the rules, and also on A8, I move to suspend the rules also. Ordinance 1015 authorizes the city manager to negotiate with Ward 8 LLC for the sale of city-owned property located at 629, 631 Howard Street. I move introduction and suspension of the rules. In planning and development, ordinance 3015 grants a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, Jimmy John's Gourmet Sandwiches, at 1241 Chicago Avenue. This is for introduction. P2 is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. This is the Human Services agenda items. I'm going to remove from the consent agenda Resolution 1R15. There's a question on that one. H2, the Human Services Committee and staff recommend City Council adoption of Resolution 2R15, authorizing the city manager to enter into 20 renewal agreements for a 12-month lease term for spaces at Noyes Art Center. H3, Human Services Committee and staff recommend City Council adoption of 3R15, authorizing the manager to enter into agreement for a 5-month lease term for Evanston Art Center lease spaces at Noyes Cultural Arts Center. Let's see. Resolution 5R15, authorizing the city manager. Is this off the consent agenda or on? Next steps, et cetera, et cetera.
It's off.
On?
It's off.
Okay, off.
Which one?
Item
Probably
H5
Clark.
is, H4 is off the consent agenda and will be discussed and addressed by the committee chair. Approval of a request for proposal for Evanston Animal Shelter. This is, H5 is also off the consent agenda. The Rules Committee. The Rules Committee and staff recommend City Council adoption of Ordinance 151014, which amends the City Code to merge the Arts Council and the Public Art Committee into one committee. This is for adoption tonight. For appointments, the Madam Mayor has recommended reappointment to the Plan Commission of Jim Ford, and with that, I move the consent agenda.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to pass the consent agenda. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes. Aye. Alderman Tindem. Aye. Alderman Grover. Aye. Alderman Rainey. Aye. Alderman Burrs. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Aye. Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson. 9-0.
9-0, the consent agenda is passed. Alderman Holmes, would you take us through Administration and Public Works?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, beginning with A 3.2, the approval of the 2015 CIP sewer rehabilitation contract with Informed Technologies. We decided to hold that in committee while we look again at the Women and Minority and Women in Evanston Business ordinance in dealing with this. I believe we promised to have it back by January 26th on the next agenda. I believe that was the consensus of the group. Looking at my notes and looking at this. I'll be back on the 26th.
That's fine.
That's right. 26. That'll be your last time.
I think that's on the 26th. Okay. Then the next is A 3.3, the approval of an amendment to the agency agreement with Northwestern University for the management of the natural gas purchase and amendment of the agreement for the purchase of natural gas for 16 city-owned buildings. I move approval.
Alderman Burris.
This is off the consent agenda because I am abstaining from the vote.
Thank you
Due
for
to
the
my-
explanation.
That I am employed by Northwestern University.
All right. Since no one else wants to speak to that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The next is A5, ordinance 109-0.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. You really need to call for abstention. so this can be recorded as an abstention.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
You're welcome.
Are there any abstentions?
Yes.
All right.
There is a game.
Oh, that's what she meant.
Okay.
Who's playing?
Shall I
Go ahead.
proceed?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Alderman
I'm
Holmes.
sorry. A5, ordinance 109-0-14, adding Title III, Chapter 31 regarding transportation network providers. That is off of the agenda and held in committee, I believe, also until January 26, when we will bring back more information to the committee. I'm sorry. No, I believe Director Farrar said the 26th?
Yep.
Yeah, it was the 26th. I wrote 26 on my notes. So that will be back on the 26th. A8, ordinance 143-0-14, decreasing the number of Class D liquor licenses for Carmen's of Evanston Incorporated at 1241 Chicago Avenue. Alderman Rainey already moved for suspension of the rules, but I would move approval.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 143-014. Alderman Fisk, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, I just really wanted quickly to say that I believe Carmen's has moved their pizza operation to the Las Palmas building because there's a Carmen's sign up there now. So Carmen's has not gone from Evanston as far as I know. Las Palmas is still there. Yep. Owned by the same folks.
Same folks.
Oh, well, thank you. I was feeling rather sad, so thank you, Alderman Fisk.
But that location, 1241 Chicago Avenue, is closed.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
All right, thank you. Back to, it's been moved and seconded to pass ordinance 143-014. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem? Aye. Alderman Grover? Aye. Alderman Rainey? Alderman Burris? Alderman Fisk? Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson? 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes.
Okay, and A9, ordinance 1-0-15, authorizing the city manager to negotiate with Ward 8 LLC for the sale of city-owned real property located at 629-631 Howard Street. Alderman Rainey already moved for suspensions of the rules, so I would move approval.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to pass ordinance 1015, authorizing the city manager to negotiate with Ward 8 for the sale of city-owned real property located at 629-631 Howard. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem? Aye. Alderman Grover? Aye. Alderman Rainey? Aye. Alderman Burris? Alderman Fisk? Aye. Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson? 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes.
And Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Alderman Fisk, would you do planning and development?
Yes, P2 was off the consent agenda. It's ordinance 154-014, the zoning ordinance text amendment to Chapter 16 regarding off-street parking and loading. Plan Commission staff recommended option to modify Chapter 16 to establish parking requirements for increase in residential density on a property. It's for introduction. I move approval.
All right.
No second.
Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem? Aye. Alderman Grover? Aye. Alderman Rainey? No. Alderman Burris? Aye. Alderman Fisk? Aye. Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson? Aye. 8-1.
8-1, the motion passes. Thank you, Alderman Fisk. Next is Human Services. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move item H1, resolution 1-R-15, authorizing the city manager to adjust the tenant lease conditions at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center as of January 1, 2015. This is for action.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Rainey, did you wish to speak to that?
Yes, I do. Just wait till I find the page. Madam Mayor, on page 210 of our agenda, under proposed changes to tenant lease conditions as of January 1, 2015, I will admit that I have not read every word and punctuation mark of all of these many, many pages. However, I did read many of them. And one of the things that caught my eye was number 3, under proposed changes to tenant lease conditions. And number 3 says, tenants will be able to sublease their space as desired. And I think they're talking about the term of that sublease, but this is pretty blatant in that they are able to sublease their space as desired. Now, maybe in the body of the ordinance and the leases, it says the kind of tenants, or that the city cannot withhold approval, undue approval, but reading this on its face, it looks to me like if I'm an artist in noise, I can rent to somebody who does something that has nothing to do with art. And I don't think that's the intent. I think the intent has to do with the change in the term that they can sublease for.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. City Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Alderman Rainey, these are adjustments to Resolution 39R12. And 39R12 maintains that they would, the tenants, and it's actually subsection C of that resolution from 2012, the tenants will be able to sublease their space as desired as long as the sublease is no longer than 60 hours per month. Subleases must be filed with the City of Evanston. The context of this is that those subleases be pertaining to the same amount that the current leasehold is. And so that has been in place since 2012. Christina Ferraro, the Assistant Director of Community Services, is here and can talk about the process of the review of the subleases. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many current subleases there are, but all of those are required to be at arts. You could not sublease to non-arts related use currently under the current terms of the leasing.
Right, and really, this was really because we had city staff going over all subleases, and it was really just an administrative nightmare. So they are eligible to sublease, and anything over 90 days is something that the Noise Tenants Association reviews with city staff. So that's really what that was about.
I think it's very unclear, very muddled, and I think it could be a problem.
And it's been in place for the last 3 years. We'd be happy to make adjustments to the...
And everything's been running so smoothly over there.
For the last couple of years, absolutely it has been, and thanks to Ms. Ferraro's good work. The Noise Tenants Association did review these changes, and actually I think they are before the council this evening at the request of the Tenants Association.
They are.
I'm just saying that having been in this business for over 20 years, this lease provision, or this comment on a lease provision is worrisome. But if everybody loves it, who am I to say?
Alderman Wilson?
I see your point. So a question, the actual leases, do they have language that restrict the uses to arts uses, things like that?
They do.
So
Can you give us a page?
That's actually what I was looking for, Grant. Let me just look through the packet here.
Okay.
Well, the item, Christina, starts on page 211. Resolution R115 is on page 212.
Well, I have all that. I'm just wondering about the actual lease. I assume that there's a piece of paper that they sign, and the piece of paper probably, maybe hopefully says something along the lines of, tenant may sublease the property.
Beginning
with
on
the
page
approval
225 of the current packet is the lease.
The master lease that they all have.
225. All right, let me get to that. Oh, there.
Does it require that they have some connection to the city of Evanston?
Does the sublease have to have?
People who sublease, yes.
No, does not.
So we can be subsidizing people from other communities, artists who don't want to pay our property tax, but do want the building.
That's what the subleases are, right?
I have never understood why we do that.
That makes sense to me.
Madam Mayor, Alderman Rainey, we'd be happy to hold this.
I just want us to do it right. Where in here does it say, because now we have another layer that says you can sublease to everybody. Really, that's what the thing says. The issue being addressed here is the duration, the term.
Page 234 of the packet, section 13.
Yeah. It doesn't require, it specifically says that they do not,
Alderman Grover?
do not need permission if it's less than.
Looking at page 228.
I'm sorry, Alderman Wilson, were you done?
228, Section 5, is use of premises. Tenants will use the premises to operate a, quote, tenant-specific use of premises, in brackets, and other related business and uses incidental thereto, and no part of the premises will be used for any other purpose without the prior written consent of landlord.
What purpose are we talking about?
The use of the premises, under the,
You can use.
And that is then enumerated based on the actual user. So what you have on page 228 is the model lease, and then that is added in with the tenant-specific use of premises. Alderman Rainey, members of the council, we're happy to amend the resolution before you to clearly indicate that it would be only for the arts use of the original lease. That's very simple. That has been the practice for many years, and we'd be happy to add the language.
I would feel really much better if there was some reference to that. Maybe not exactly the use. I mean, it doesn't have to be an artist. It could be a writer or a musician, but should certainly have, a comment should be made about the arts.
So if we take, Madam Mayor, on page 212, which is the resolution 1R15, the sublease is section 2C at the top of page 213, where it says tenants will be able to sublease their space as desired as long as it conforms with the original purpose of the master lease, the original use of the master lease.
That would work for me. Alderman Rainey?
I guess. Unless, of course, it's less than 90 days, and then and that shouldn't be, really. That really shouldn't be. I think anybody, you can have all the tenant organizations you want. It's not a condominium association. It's a tenant organization, and I really don't understand why. I mean, maybe the city does actually have final right of approval.
It does.
It does.
And so if we amend C, we'll be able to sublease their space as desired pursuant to the original use of lease. That will include all. It will include the under 90-day leases as well, subleases as well. Alderman Rainey, this has not been an issue that we've encountered, but we're happy to amend that so that.
I would accept that amendment. It's better than what we got.
I'll move that amendment.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to authorize the city manager. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm lost. And there's a motion to approve it as amended. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes?
Aye.
Alderman Tindem?
Aye.
Alderman Grover?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Burris?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
9-0 for the amendment.
9-0, the motion passes. Back to you, Alderman Braithwaite.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item H4, Resolution 5-R-15, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding with the Evanston Arts Center concerning its move from Harley Clark Mansion and Harley Clark Mansion status update and next steps. This is also for action.
Second. Wait, you didn't move it. I thought you didn't.
I moved for action. Yes, sorry.
Alderman Holmes?
Well, I wanted this off of the agenda because I'm not going to support it. I want to commend the staff first for really giving it a good try, but I still feel very strongly that we need a policy, and I'm just not, so I just can't support it.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Does anyone else want to speak to this? Alderman Rainey.
Madam Mayor, I wasn't here for the Human Services Committee meeting last week, but I'm just wondering, is there a way to financially support this move without identifying permits? I really feel as strongly as Alderman Holmes does that we shouldn't be doing permits. So there's a way we could support it without identifying, I mean, why can't we give them some money and say, use it towards your move, your relocation? Why do we have to talk about?
I don't know. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alderman Rainey, if I remember correctly, the $25,000 that the city manager recommended, we didn't line item it. I don't recall. I thought he just said it was $25,000. I mean, we can go back.
Plus excusing permit fees?
It said,
Well, he didn't. I don't think he identified any dollars. Did you, Wally? When we made the recommendations, just for $25,000.
So,
and the only
it
reason
says
why
waive, if you look at the
then let me
page, go to
back.
page 277,
I made a
277,
mistake
waive
then.
25,000 of permit fees.
It says
Oh, it was.
It does say it. I mean, that's why I can't.
there's more than just the resolution.
But
I can read.
So, Madam Mayor, members of the council, page 281 of your packet has the items that were discussed by the Human Services Committee. There is a $5,000 cash payment under 1C for assistance with moving. That was something that was discussed by the Human Services Committee in December. At its meeting last week, it talked about what to do with the other fees. Those total fees were approximately $50,000. I made a recommendation to the committee that it consider approximately half, or a $25,000 fee waiver, and so that is the language before you. Alderman Holmes, as she mentioned, raised concerns about the precedents that this would set, and if you'll notice that there are 2 pages of whereases which at least speak to that, and I guess it's up to members of the council to determine if that's sufficient or not. So there is no, we are not allocating any money to pay for those $25,000 in fees. Instead, it would be a credit against the bill that the Arts Center has. So that bill will exceed $25,000, and they would then write us a check for that balance. That is what's proposed in the resolution before you.
It says page 277.
280 has the not bound.
In the middle of the page, on page 277, it says,
Yeah, you're right.
Human Services Committee recommended to the City Council that the city waive $25,000 of permit fees.
That's correct, and that's what's in the language in the resolution.
Alderman Grover.
I move that we amend the resolution to remove specific reference to our $25,000 for the Evanston Arts Center and simply have it state that it's related to moving expenses.
That's because they're not moving expenses. If
Moving,
It is a relocation.
moving and relocation
It is a relocation.
costs or
They wouldn't
expenses.
have it if they weren't.
All right, Alderman
can-
Holmes.
Could we amend where we give $5,000 and just simply amend that to make it 30 for relocation funds? Could we do that?
You absolutely could.
I could certainly support that.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Wilson.
Well, I'd wonder what the source of the money would be, and then it seems a little silly to write them a check and have them pay us back. But I did want to point out that, as the city manager alluded to, in the current draft, it does say that is the whereas is a home rule entity not bound by the terms of this resolution or subsequent memorandum of understanding to provide similar assistance to other individuals. It says it's not precedential, it's of no force and effect to others, any other situations. So there's a lot of qualifying language that makes it clear that this isn't any sort of precedential thing.
And, yeah, when somebody comes to us, I don't think it means a whole lot, Don. I hear you. and
Well, you can say
I'm
no.
not a lawyer, so I don't understand it, but I would just be much more comfortable if we didn't do it. But I'm only one vote, so go ahead.
All right, hold on. It's been moved and seconded to pass it as amended.
Yes.
Well, what's the amendment?
That they take out the wording.
I believe the amendment is we take
move
out subsection 1D and instead amend section C to read, provide the Evanston Arts Center with $30,000, in parens, $13,000, for assistance
Relocation.
for relocation.
Thank you, Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey?
It probably sounds silly on the surface, but despite Alderman Wilson's reading of the resolution, it means everything in terms of going forward with the next group who wants permit fees waived. And, you know, I have no trouble helping people relocate or expanding their business, et cetera, but we pretty much have a policy not to waive permit fees. And I think we should stick with it. And if they want to use this money for permit fees or for the moving truck or paint, whatever, that's their business. But it's not being identified as permit fees, and I think that's very important. It is not petty. It's important.
I have only been on the council for, I don't know, 10 or 11 years, but I agree with you, Alderman Rainey and Alderman Holmes. People will come to us and ask for that. So before us is a resolution as amended to make it say 30,000. Is that a, did I totally massacre your motion, Alderman Grover? City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Purse. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson. 8-1.
The motion passes.
And Madam Mayor, members of the council, the second part of this is a request for a discussion on next steps for the use of the facility. I think the facts have been gone through. If the council would provide direction either for a citizen group to be appointed or other action, staff would appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman Burris.
I just got a question on the last vote. What was the vote total?
8-1.
Who voted no?
Wilson.
No, I didn't.
Sound like oh no to me.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just
All right,
want to
sorry.
clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't care.
I ain't catching no unanimous. Okay. Go ahead.
Get a bigger catcher's mitt. All right. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item H5, approval of the request for proposal for Evanston Animal Shelter and Animal Welfare Program. Want me to read it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
H5, right?
No, you're right, but I'm wrong. The city manager had asked
Oh,
for a discussion of Harley Clark
Got it.
future uses. My goof, Peter. So, Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that in the background memo that we received from the city manager, that the suggestion that I think it was discussed at the Human Services Committee meeting, that a committee be formed of citizens, aldermen, and several representatives of the preservation community be formed to look again at the uses for the Harley Clark Mansion. And because a certain amount of time has passed, and that I know the community feels very strongly about it, and that we should take some time to explore potential options, make it very public, have everyone understand what we're looking at, and I think that is a very good plan. I know that Governor Rauner was inaugurated today, and I think we should at least let his administration get their feet on the ground and perhaps go back and see if there is some support for the IADNR program. Stranger things have happened.
There's nothing wrong with trying.
Yes, so I think that this the memo here proposes a very good way forward for a period of time. I mean, this can't go on forever, but I think it's worth going back and exploring the options that are available to us now. It's been 2.5 years, so I think that things have changed.
Thank you, Alderman Burris.
Hi. Thank you for calling on me.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while, particularly on this issue, right? If a committee is formed, which I have my reservations about, even though it's been 2 years, not a heck of a lot has really changed. I'm pretty confident that the majority of people still feel the same way that we did 2 years ago about the situation. But we have many come up with sort of fanciful ideas of what to do with this property. I think if a committee is going to be formed, that there needs to be clear parameters around the committee. Sometimes it's, death by committee. I think that's actually Alderman Rainey's favorite, one of all of your favorite terms. But the parameters need to include that, are we going to make a decision that no property will be sold? Then put that on there. Are we going to make a decision that they actually have to bring it up to code, and what are the renovation pieces of this and how much will it cost? Third, and probably most important, in my view, is that if a committee is going to come up with a recommendation, they should probably recommend how they're going to pay for it as well. Versus, the city has extra money, that people could come up and say, well, they have extra money, they'll just cut here and there. We really don't have extra money. We have a lot of debt. So that we don't accept recommendations from this committee that don't have dollars attached of where that money's coming from, solid money, not we're going to have bake sales and come up with $10 million, because that's what I hear over and over again. We'll just fundraise for, $10, $12 million. And, the reality of what purpose do we want this to be? What are we going to do in this building? Have a goal for the building. I think many people on the council don't necessarily want to continue to run this operation. So if you're going to hand it over to someone else, again, you don't want to, so the parameters are, you don't want to sell any land, you don't want it to be a for-profit, and you absolutely have to come up with some money around this versus, it's going to be an event space. Let's really do the math on that. That doesn't work out. So I think it's important to have that as part of this committee.
Thank you. I would add one parameter. I think we need a date that the committee has to come to a decision, because once the building is unoccupied, that's a different deal than having the art center there. Alderman Grover?
I'm not sure I'd be looking for this working group or task force to come to a decision on anything. I think at best we have maybe at most 6 months before the building is actually vacant. And that might be a good ending point to require then and ask a task force or working group to make a recommendation, or at the very least have discussed all options, determine their viability, including their costs, including the political viability. So count heads. I mean, for things that require city expenditures, please understand then, working group or task force, where the votes might be on the city council for the various options. And that's part of the reality of Harley Clark Mansion, not just the cost, but also where there would be support. Because as we've seen over the last several years, there doesn't seem to be a consensus in the community, much less on the city council, about how we address and what we do with Harley Clark. So I like the idea of a working group. I want it to be a working group, though, one that really tackles all of the ideas, some of them fanciful, some of them not so grounded in reality, but some of them may have some legs. But we've really got to, I suppose, take these 6 months to explore them and determine where the resources are, and what chance they have of materializing. I don't expect there to be a rabbit pulled out of a magic hat at the last minute to save us. And at the same time, maybe keep the lines open with the Rauner administration. In case, perhaps, this task force recommends that we loosen up our negotiating position as to how we dispose of the mansion and the property upon which it sits. So we've got 6 months, and there are a lot of good people who have already done a lot of work on this, and if perhaps we bring it all together in one place and do a really studied approach to what are the options and how viable are they, We might find ourselves in the same place 6 months from now, but at least we will have tackled it for one last time and understood what the reality is, all of us, instead of thinking there are great ideas out there and blaming the city council for not acting on them.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, then Alderman Rainey, and then Alderman Holmes.
Thank you, and I do agree that the idea of the working group is a good one. I do agree with Alderman Grover, we should have a report back date. On the other hand, Alderman Burris, I don't think we should set any other parameters. I think we should just let them explore whatever might be out there, and it might be good, it might be bad, it might be somewhere in between, but I think it's most appropriate for the group to look at anything they can look at, and if it's a terrible idea and they come back to us with a terrible idea, we say no. If it's a great idea, we say great. But I don't think it's a great idea to restrict them in the parameters other than a report back date.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
If a group is appointed, I think it should be 3 months, not 6 months. 6 months is dragging it out way too long. We've been working on this for years. And it definitely needs to be advisory. I agree with most of what Alderman Grover said, but I think 3 months is plenty of time. It's an advisory committee. I heard earlier that the group will come back with their proposal. It can only be a proposal, and it should be more than one, I think. It should not be just one. And I'm very curious to know, as this group that is formed already went around looking at mansions, I'm wondering if they took the time to go to Stone Porch over at Church and Sheridan, the Jennifer Pritzker bed and breakfast that she renovated. It's a wonderful example of the work that could have been done on this location, but we missed that opportunity. But if you're looking at how mansions can be restored by people with lots of money or good intentions, look at Stone Porch. It is magnificent, and it cost millions and millions of dollars to restore.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes.
I don't know how many people watched the installation today of our new administration, but I think one of his first orders was to freeze everything. So I hope, I'm just saying, I hope, that maybe somebody has a contact or something with him to, maybe keep the lines of communication open. But I believe it was the first thing that he said. It struck me. I thought, wow. So just, I know, well, I just watched the news, so.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Alderman Burris, beat that one.
Yes, Alderman Rainey, I agree. Stone Porch is magnificent, but again, our fairy godmother has flown away on that one. Very few people have that much passion about historic preservation and that much money and that much goodwill to help us. Well, you can talk about that. I can't. So yes, Stone Porch is unbelievably fantastic, but there are people that obviously were against that. Maybe 6 of us up here. And Alderman Wilson, I disagree with your comment about parameters, because if this advisory committee comes back with no idea of how to fund what they want to do, we are right back to where we started. Alderman Grover said, this is our one last time looking at it. We've been talking about this for years and years and years, and one more committee. And if we don't have a committee that comes back with realistic means money. You can come up with great ideas, but if you can't figure out how to fund it, I'm not sure that it's all that helpful. So I think the parameters of idea along with how you're going to fund it. It's kind of like when you're looking to go to college. You put it in perspective. What can I afford? I would love to go to a lot of places, and I'd love my kid to go a lot of places, but what can you afford? So let's look at it realistically, is my point.
Thank you. Alderman Tendem.
Thank you. There will be a lot of challenges ahead of us in this project. I think probably one of the biggest for me will be having to listen to so many times how we had it in our hand and blew it. I know it's going to be a challenge, but anyway, I think Alderman Rainey is right on target. When it has to be a quick response, quick turnaround, just to stay in touch with council to understand the votes that it's going to take. 3 months is good. Even 2 months would be even better. I think it just needs to be. Yeah, it's a long time. I think they just need to have constant, or at least frequent contact with council to make sure it makes sense to all of us. So, and likewise get a sense of the political atmosphere. So, I think a quick turnaround and review is really helpful.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen?
Yes. Well, I know that we all want to get this resolved very rapidly. I don't think 60 days is nearly enough time. I mean, we're going to have to reach out and do some inquiry. I even think 90 days is not long enough. The place is not going to be vacated till May 1.
June 1.
June 1, excuse me, June 1. I think that should be the deadline, because I mean, they're volunteers who are serving on this committee. I think June 1 will arrive faster than we can possibly imagine right now, and I think a 6-month deadline is a reasonable amount of time.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
We got an email earlier today from Wally with reporting a discussion with you, Mayor Tisdall, about the creation of a potential citizens group with 7 members, 2 Alder people, represented from our Preservation Commission, a representative from our Parks and Recreation Board, it being on and at a city park property, and 3 members selected at large by the mayor. I propose and move that we create just such a working group or task force, however you want to call it, Mayor, and that we require them to report back a recommendation, or at least a report, even without a recommendation to the City Council in May.
What day of May?
Before June 1st is what I'm getting. I didn't want to date certain. Who knows how the meeting schedule works out, but before June 1st, so that means sometime in May.
Okay.
And that's fewer than 6 months, it being already January 15th, whatever, 15th, yeah.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
All right. Seeing no lights for further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Rodney, there are no one's. All right.
Keep us going?
Yes.
Get us out of here. Item H5, approval of the request for proposal for Evanston Animal Shelter and Animal Welfare Program. And that's for action.
Oh, Alderman Tandem?
Thank you. I think it's a really well put together RFP. I do think it's incredibly ambitious too. So my concern is that if we do get responders, that we have reasonable expectations of what they might actually be willing to partner with. And there were a couple of things I wasn't sure about in terms of the care on intake of animals. That actually, it says that the VAO, the veterinary organization, will provide shelter after the animals have been accepted into the shelter. But where does the care and money come from to take care of them immediately on intake? I mean, I realize our city police have them at that time, our animal wardens, but if they do need veterinary services, if they need to be groomed and have basic immunizations, worming, I mean, that's a big expense that we're not really used to covering. Who provides that money? Already? That's the additional money we've allocated this year. And then it does also say that this organization is responsible for all the fundraising, and I think that's pretty ambitious too. I think they could probably graduate into it, and while they should be very experienced and pretty well established with fundraising experiences, I just wonder that again seems to almost be a deterrent. I mean, I think part of this proposal is almost in some ways sort of a deterrent for someone really wanting to taking this on. So I guess there's no harm in asking for everything, but I think we just have to be very realistic about it.
Okay, because initially, as it stands right now, the city is taking care of, those bills. But I think eventually, with fundraising, the VOA will start taking care of those matters. Just just as it did in the past. So, initially the city will still, take care of the bills, and just as we're doing at this present time.
And Alderman Tendem, we would be happy to, with the council's concurrence, make some adjustments to the language that better reflects what Commander Pickett just said, but perhaps what is actually written in the document, that we would look that there would be a transition for those for those intake expenses, and perhaps also work on the language for fundraising, that they would be involved with that. But I think it's always been the intention that there would be multiple parties working to raise money for the shelter that would not be solely the VAO's responsibility. But I don't know that has actually been all fleshed out, because we don't know who the VAO would be.
I think we can make a reference to that it's a process, not an immediate responsibility.
So we could make those two adjustments with the council's concurrence.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite, you moved this. Did anyone second it?
Second.
Thank you.
Before we had the discussion, that would have been nice.
All right. Seeing no lights for further discussion, all in favor of approval of request for proposal for Evanston Animal Shelter and Animal Welfare Program as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations, everyone. We are at call of the wards. Alderman Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just would like to invite you on Thursday, the 15th, 7 o'clock, the regular Fifth Ward meeting at Fleetwood Jourdain. Also, just to remind you again of MLK Day at Fleetwood on Saturday, the 17th, which Mr. Rose gave us a really good preview of this evening. And I wanted to just follow up on the police department, and again, just to commend our police department. And I am very, very proud of our department, and I'm really happy that Sergeant Williams and the other officer had a chance to go to New York and to see another side, because I think that we are pretty unique in this community in terms of the services that we provide and the relationship that we have with the community and our police department.
Thank you. Alderman Tendem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, too, want to say, thank some of my appreciation to the police department in representing us in New York City. I also want to tell people the 6th and 7th Ward that we will be having a 7th Ward meeting combination on January 22nd at 7 p.m. at Three Crowns Center. It will be hopefully a good turnout to introduce a lot of people that haven't been in the community and working with the city for a long time. We'll have a new problem-solving team in the 6th Ward we have what's already been in effect, but we'll be introducing Officer Dan Coy and also Officer Scott Sungenberger will be here to discuss 7th Ward issues. And we'll also have actually, Alderman Grover can go on. We have other people in the agenda. You can remind people of some of those things, but thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
So to continue the agenda for our combined ward meeting, this is always a fun thing that Alderman Tendem and I do at least once a year. The agenda will include Whole Foods Green Bay Road, which is coming with presentations and rendering for the new store. In fact, they're before the DAPR committee this week on Wednesday with some additional drawings seeking their final construction permit for the renovation. The agenda also includes introduction to our district superintendent, 65 Superintendent Paul Gorin, who will be there to meet residents of Three Crown and anyone else who wants to come for a little bit of meet and greet, probably at the end of our meeting, because he's got a kindergarten open house at one of his schools this week. 'Tis the season. Speaking of which, good luck to all ETHS students who are in finals this week. I wish you, besides good luck, sound sleep and steady focus. Joe, I hope you're studying right now. And then lastly, thank you, Alderman Holmes, for your right-on-point words, and Mayor, for your remarks earlier today, this meeting, about the excellence in our police department and their extraordinary work in our community.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
I want to congratulate all those who were promoted and all those who attended tonight for all their good work in the police department. Also, Alderman Burris and I are having a joint meeting, 8th and 9th Ward, on Thursday, February 5, and our meeting is going to be at Little Beans at Asbury and Oakton, and everybody can come and get a view of how the progress is going there, and it'll soon be open. I'll let you finish about the meeting. We'll have an update on Otto Barn and all the different things going on down there.
Thank you. Alderman Burris?
Also, congratulations to police officers that were promoted recently, and thank you for your ongoing service to Evanston. You're out there on the front lines every day, and we all appreciate it. Again, at the combined ward meeting on February 5th, a postcard has been sent out. Also, there's notices on the city's website, as well as my Facebook page, and as well as Alderman Rainey's message board about what will be talked about at the meeting. So please check that out. Thank you. Hope to see you there.
At Little Beans.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to express my pride and admiration for the Evanston Police Department. It's just one of the things I'm proudest of the community, and thank you for your patience as well. I want to also thank all the people who work to volunteer and organize, and on First Night Evanston, again, it was just a wonderful experience this year. If you haven't come out, be sure to come out this coming year. It's just wonderful to see everybody together, everyone enjoying all of the performers, and you all just should come out. Food trucks, the performances, everything was fabulous. So please come next year if you missed it this year.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite?
I'll be brief, Madam Mayor. I'd also like to share my congratulations to the officers that were promoted, as well as say thank you very much to the members of the Evanston Police Department for the wonderful job that you do every day in servicing and protecting our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen?
I will join everyone on the council in thanking congratulating the police officers who were promoted tonight, but in particular, I'd like to thank their families for all of the support they provide to them. I'd also like to speak tonight about a member of the Evanston community who we lost just before Christmas. Sue Brady died just before Christmas, and I'd like to speak about her a little bit. Sue Brady dedicated her life here in Evanston to her family and to social justice. She had 5 children, 17 grandchildren, and 1 brand new great-grandson. Sue pioneered programs in public housing in Cook County and modeled those things for many years. She volunteered and frequently led organizations such as Leadership Evanston, the Evanston Housing Commission. She was part of 3 PTAs, YOU, and the League of Women Voters, just to name some of them. She worked tirelessly on all of Barack Obama's federal campaigns, and I don't think he could have done it without her. And during this entire time period, she was 3rd Ward Alderman for 8 years and served on this council. Sue lived across the street from me for the last probably 10 years, and there were many Tuesday mornings after a city council meeting where we would bump into each other on the street. And without fail, Sue would know and thoroughly understand almost every issue we ever talked about on the council the night before, and she had an opinion about everything. But not only did she watch our meetings, but she watched District 65's meetings, because her daughter-in-law, Tracy Quattrocki, serves on District 65, and Sue did the same thing with her. And then for the last year or so, not this past one, but she watched District 202's board meetings because her grandson, Russell, was the student rep on the District 202 board, and she knew every one of their issues as well and was always available to offer advice. Sue Brady was a real force of nature, and she exemplified the words activist, citizen, and Evanstonian. She will be very much missed.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
Thank you. And as everyone else has mentioned, I do want to also express my appreciation for the excellent work that our police department does.
every day, and I think we as a community are very fortunate to have the individuals and leadership that we enjoy from their efforts. And with that,
No, not yet.
No, not
Because I
yet.
forgot one thing.
Okay.
Thank you. Former Alderman Richard Lyons has a memorial service scheduled for Sunday, January 18th. Dr. Lyons was an anesthesiologist who practiced at St. Francis Hospital in Evanston for part of his career. Died on December 30th at age 92 at the Mather. He served as alderman from 1965 to 1971. He's a former great Eighth Ward alderman, and he will be missed. He was described as having been the conscience of the council, and noticing that he was instrumental in codifying open and fair housing practices in the city. So I imagine, Alderman Rainey, do you want to say?
I just wanted to say that we were able to name a street this past year, and he was present at the 150th anniversary where we had all the former aldermen come.
Yeah.
So he made it to that, yeah.
That's terrific, thank you. All right, Alderman Wilson.
and pursuant to pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel, litigation, and minutes. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C1, C11, and C21.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
9:37.